Hey everybody, welcome back to the RGR Football Channel. My name's Daniel Harms. Today, I've finally gotten through everything that I promised that I would. The Mecole Hardman film reviews here, and I think that we can really reasonably look at 2020 as more of a give and take in terms of what he was able to still do in terms, and then you can look at it a different way in terms of what he couldn't do and the things that he didn't consistently improve upon. And to be honest with you, there were some things that he did well f- at getting better at throughout the season, and then things that just kind of just didn't get better. Some things at the end of the season that were problematic for me alone. So I think what I'm gonna do today is a little bit of a comprehensive review. What I did was I went through about 5 games of his. I started at the beginning of the season. I went from week 2 to week 3. Also looked at 4 a little bit. Then we went to week 8 against the Jets. 4 was against the Patriots. 3, against the Ravens. Week 14 against the Saints. Well, was one of the games he had a bunch of targets in. And I also looked at the divisional game against the Browns because that was a game that he had 100% completion percentage, 4 for 4. He played the majority of really the offensive snaps. Some of the highest percentage snaps that he played in the season were in the divisional game. And we're going to talk about that when we get to that point. But some things that I want to talk about first before we get into the film is coming into this season, this past season, it was important that Mecole Hardman worked on a couple things. His overall route running ability. He has quick feet, but that doesn't transition, has not transitioned well into him running routes and really breaking off corners and eluding people with his stem manipulation. He's not able to really do a whole lot with his footwork and his leverage and really showing you which direction he wants to go and going a different way. So that was one thing. And I believe I just said working through contact. He runs routes like he's afraid to get touched by somebody. He'll run like that's one of the big reasons, in my opinion, that his route running and being in the same spot that Harden that Mahomes wants you to be in is off because he's trying to get around contact instead of trying to work his way as close to that person as he can and find ways to cut under it or swim over them or work through the contact, and he's busy trying to avoid it. So it takes him on a completely different path, and he ends up in the wrong spot a lot of times because of it. So those are two really big things that I think he needed to work on and improve on. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. All right. So like I said, I did start in week 2 against the Chargers. We all know that the Chargers defense usually gives the Chiefs a pretty good run for their money when they're healthy. You've got Hardman down here, just so you know. And this is one of the things that I was talking about just now in terms of his route running. I think that you're going to see right here that he's just in the wrong spot. And it doesn't even have to be about contact because he even points to Mahomes at the end of that play. And the ball, it goes over him away from where he's supposed to be on the field. So it looks to me like he's supposed to go a little bit further, but that contact made him kind of break up the possibility of playing through contact made him break off his route a little bit. This is all speculation because I don't actually know what he's supposed to be breaking at, whether it's 10, whether it's 12 yards. It's all just kind of based on where the throw ends up and where he is on the field. Because you can see right here that Mahomes is throwing it already. To me, it looks like he was looking somewhere else, maybe over here first, and then came back to Hardman and just threw it to him because they do that quite a bit in terms of he's going to look one way or looked at the safety and then come back and just immediately throw. So this also could have just been an errant pass. Like it very well could have been, but to me, it looks like Hardman was supposed to be a little bit more to this part of the field when he threw this ball. Obviously, you can see it comes back around and up. So that's also points out to really the overarching point of finding those soft spots and zones. I assume that they practiced against that kind of thing, and he's supposed to be a little bit down the field a little bit more. But again, that could have just be some speculation. But he does point to himself, so I assume that he was not completely down the field as far as he should have been. So that's just one of those areas again that he's not really at. And then we're going to see exactly what Mahomes is looking at. So yeah, he's looking over here first, trying to widen that gap to get it to Hardman, and then he pulls the trigger and he's just not in the right spot. So that's what I'm telling you about the contact. I think the threat of possibly someone being in his way at the beginning of the season deterred him from running the routes the proper way. And you're going to see a lot of that throughout this process. Unfortunately, it's still an issue for him. Again, here in the slot, it is still an issue. We're going to see a little bit of improvement in these clips. I'm going to talk a little bit about where he's able to be. Like right there, even though he gets to the right spot, he avoids. He doesn't want to play through contact. So you're going to see him. He kind of starts at it. He goes underneath. He doesn't. It seems almost like he doesn't know if he wants to go around or go underneath, and it kind of makes it choppy. It makes him, his routes, his movement choppy, and that's not what you want to see. So yeah, he does get the catch there, but again, your routes aren't very clean if you're trying to figure out whether to go around or go underneath somebody. So it just gets a little bit suspect there. That's all. This is the part where you really like to see though, because at the end of this catch is where he does get to work finally. He finds the soft spot eventually. Mahomes steps up, gets it to him, and this is what we see actually for a lot from Travis Kelsey. So it's nice to see him with this leg outside, excuse me, where he just kind of digs it in and then comes back to the inside with that really hip turn that Travis Kelsey uses a lot. So it's nice to see him get more creative in the way he can create yards after the catch, because for a guy who has quick feet, I wouldn't necessarily call him a quick twitch guy. I think that he's definitely not Tyreek Hill in terms of being able to jump, cut back to the side, everything like that. There's some things he needs to really work on, and I don't know if his frame allows him to put more muscles around those knees and his ankles, but it feels like he's not at that point where he can really jump in and out like we see Tyreek Hill doing. So it's just a little choppy and one dimensional in terms of what he can provide as an after the catch threat. Obviously, his speed is going to bring a lot of that to the table. There he is in the slot one more time against the Ravens. And if I'm going through these games, I took some notes because I wanted to be really in depth with what I was doing. So again, I wrote down that the possibility of contact disrupts his process, and that's just been an overarching problem to the beginning of this last season. But this is one of those things that I really liked about his tape. Again, you're going to see a couple things here. Let's slow it down really quick, just so you can see exactly what I'm talking about. In the slot against Humphrey, we got nearly a 10-yard cushion. So he's going to attack him vertically, and you're going to see Humphrey open up to the outside. That's where he's going to take that jab step with his left foot to the inside, but then move back to the outside. And that's where we see a little bit of an issue with the depth of the football. So Mahomes is throwing this down the field, and you can see him right there have to readjust his route. Um, this could be just on Mahomes, because honestly, I would like him to throw it a little more out this way. So if you can really just see, this ball is going to end up coming in up this way. If you can, I think it's a little inaccurate in my opinion, because you've got all the space to work with. When you beat him to when he Hardman beats him to the inside, I'd like to see the ball work a little bit out towards this way. That's just a little thing for me. So, but again, we're going to come back to that. But there's that tracking. Yeah, you really got to catch this. I mean, as much as we talk about recovery and that ball tracking aspect, I think that Hardman's got some work to do there, specifically with being able to track that. So he's got to really. Humphrey did a good job of trying to come back as much as he could, get him a little bit of contact at the catch point, and then we can see again, like I said, he beats him down the field. It's a good route to get open, having to adjust, but you got to make this catch over the shoulder. It's not easy, and obviously me saying this on my gaming chair doesn't make it any easier for him to catch that football. But I think that's something we can definitely see an improvement upon, because one of the things that I liked about Hardman coming out of Georgia was that I liked his tracking ability. Like, he's been a little bit late to to find some of these footballs, but again, like he didn't appear to be looking. He didn't appear to find this one until it was too late. That's really the word I'm looking for. See exactly, because here he's looking for the ball, and it looks like he just didn't get enough depth in his route, and then he's forced to try to one-hand it, and that's really not where you want to be. So it's definitely possible that Mahomes missed him in terms of where he was going on the throw. I would have, like I said, I'd like to see it to a little more inside of the field. This one really just goes straight down and up on a line there. But if you can see, just I know adjusting on the run is not easy, but Humphrey does a good job of coming back. This is just an outstretched right hand. He's wide open really when he's coming across the field. And if this ball is probably like here, if it's out this way towards the hashes a little bit, it's probably a touchdown. But still a little bit of the ball tracking, some issues there till it's too late. That just that general grasp and the aspect that he's still working with and really trying to get a hold of. So now this is an added point to him. I really liked seeing him used on the outside more than I initially thought that he was last season. And especially routes like this are going to give him an edge playing on the outside because you have that speed. So teams typically don't want to press you if they don't have to. And this is one of those areas where, if let's say you press Hardman right here and you miss, guess what? It's going to be a touchdown because Mahomes isn't going to miss that. But here you see him break down to the inside, really freeze that corner, and then he's going to release to the outside. He's got not much room to work with, but again, he's wide open, really. The corner's in a bad position. He's now finding the football. It's just a little out in front of him. Mahomes might want to have that one back because those are the situations that Mahomes really likes to be in and likes to see. Because not only are we talking about a corner being in a bad position because his head isn't turned around, he can't find the football, he can't locate it. You can really make some mistakes with ball location in terms of getting it around the receiver. And even a guy like Hardman who doesn't have, the length and doesn't have the size to do it consistently enough. If you just get this around him, he's probably going to come down with it. So it's definitely a bit of a hit or miss topic with him. But seeing him go on the outside like that and win, because you're not going to see a whole lot of press as a guy with the 4.3 speed. It's a good indication. You really like to see him freeze the corner that way and learning to manipulate corners on the outside and in press coverage. It's very important for success at the next level, especially because guys like Bill Belichick will lock you up with players if he can. He's always done this with uh, Gilmore. He's always put Gilmore on a lesser receiver than Tyreek Hill. This is Gilmore here on Hardman in the reduced split here. And one of the things that I was impressed with out of the game against the Patriots was that he beat multiple corners deep, like free deep, and it wasn't even that close. Like if you're in a position like this, he's just screaming down the field. Obviously, the ball goes to the opposite end, um, but it's just a lot of fun to see him be able to use that speed. Yeah, he did use a little bit of a shimmy with his shoulders, and you obviously have the help with the safety over top. But I like looking at just him beating a guy like Gilmore as an up, like plus a plus rep, and that's what you really want to see. And it wasn't just him this game; he did it against a couple other. I think J.C. Jackson was another corner that he just beat down the field like it was bad. Like he was wide open. And unfortunately, you don't get to all of those reads as Mahomes. So a couple other things. Yeah, like he's a couple different times Mahomes was pressured right as he was getting to the Mahomes, getting to the Hardman read, and he more deep wins is something I specifically wrote down, and that's what you wanted to see, especially because if we look back at 2019 when when he was a rookie, he had that huge volume of efficient downfield targets where he scored touchdowns and he was getting open deep and he was catching those passes. It seemed to come back down to earth because if we look at the stats from 2019 to 2020, he had roughly like the same yards, but the efficiency numbers in terms of like the yards per target or yards per catch went down nearly almost 10 yards. So he wasn't getting all those deep shots like we saw in 2019. He was getting more runs on jet sweeps and using more as a motion and a decoy than anything, which is not what you want to see from a guy who's supposed to be elevated in your offense. So this is one of the things we really can look forward to from Mecole Hardman. He's going to continue to get these looks and get these types of touches because that's the kind of speed that he brings. He can score on anything like this. That's what I'm talking about with those jet sweeps. And when I was watching this live, I specifically remember knowing exactly when it was going to be a touchdown. I see right here, he comes around. As soon as you see this, I was just like, oh, he's going to score. He's going to score. He's got one guy to beat. I specifically remember because no one's going to catch him here. It's just not happening. But this is one of the more fun things I like to see. This guy has got no chance. Okay. And if you we're already talking about blocker, blocker, lead blocker, guess what? You still have a safety down here looking the other way. He's still looking the other way. He's trying to come down. So it's just a really nice thing to see him continuously to get these touches because he's scored on multiple kinds of touches like this before. So he's just such an explosive player with the ball, the speed and acceleration. It's important to his game, and he was really utilized like this a little bit too much, in my opinion. And it really kind of made him an afterthought in the offense because if he's sitting down there in the flat, and that's basically the reason that you're using it as a decoy on a jet motion, it's just not a good look for the offense, in my opinion. So as we're getting into the season, that was the week 8 game against the Jets. That was one of his better games statistically. He had that touchdown. He had a couple deep shots down the field. And then we're getting to week 14, and I saw him on the field more with Tyreek Hill on the same side. Like they were used better on the same side, like they are down here again. But this is a different kind of play. But again, in usage in the red zone is not something that you see a whole lot with Hardman because condensed spaces, you can miss on your press reps as a corner and not have to be paid. It's not that big of a deal. You've got some help in the back end if you need it, but you're not going to have someone screaming down the field if you miss on your press. You have time to recover in the sun, that kind of thing. So uh really this game was it came down to, I noticed one of the bigger issues that was cropping up last year was his drops. It came up a lot less, I should say, earlier in the season. But against the Jets, he had a couple that just kind of went through his hands. Against the Saints, he had kind of the same thing with contact. We all remember that deep shot that Lattimore was able to get back to and break up because he was able to get contact with Mecole Hardman. But like this is the kind of thing that I really liked to see from him. And Mahomes, we all know this throw is not just a throw. Like the catch is great. The concentration to make this catch is incredible. The ability to find him coming screaming across the field. But again, you see, he's never not open on this play in terms of from his corner. He sees outside leverage, and he knows he's coming in across the field anyway. So you got to get to the far side of the hash mark in the corner of the end zone anyway, because Mahomes already drifting out. So quarterback's coming this way. You see a corner with outside leverage, and you're going to be able to beat him up the field this way. So it's nice to, when you look at him attacking a little bit to the corner and then accelerating out of his cut up the field and across. Jenkins doesn't really know what's happening because he's just trying to keep up. But you see, Hardman knows that he's open. You've got attention everywhere else except for him, and it's a really good play to see not only his concentration on the drop of the catch of the touchdown, but knowing early on in the rep that he's going to be able to get win to the inside and get to the corner of the end zone. It's all about play recognition and seeing it unfold as you're running your route. Sometimes it doesn't happen for him very much and he's trying to figure out what to do. But that right there is a perfect explanation and reason to believe that I think that he can grow in understanding of where to be on the field. That's why I think this offseason was so important for him to really get on the same page with Mahomes. He didn't have that in 2020's offseason because of COVID and everything. So getting more reps with the starters and being on the field more and trying to practice through that contact and get just a bag out there to run your routes through, to not have to take detours around guys, is going to help you be in the same spot a lot of the time. Another play here from the Saints game, again, you've got Hardman here in the slot and Hill in the reduced split, utilizing that speed on the same side, and you've obviously got Travis Kelce on the opposite side. So this is the one of the play that I was talking to you about, the recovery. It was able to break that up. You got to have better hands to the contact point there. Yes, the corner does a really, really good job of coming back to break this pass up, but you have to catch this. I've seen him catch passes through contact before, and maybe even if all you have to do is slow up a little bit, because one of two things will happen on that if you slow up here. You'll create contact with the corner, maybe draw a penalty, or you'll be able to catch the ball. But you can see he worked through contact a little bit better here to get inside and then break it outside because his acceleration creates like a yard and a half of separation down the field. And again, you see that slight little edge, not edge, but in his route. You'll see exactly what I'm talking about. If we watch most of his routes downfield, you're going to see at the very end he's adjusting to the football. And I don't know if that's inaccuracy on Mahomes' part. I assume it's just because the ball happened to be there. But maybe he's just getting to the sideline too far, and Mahomes wants him to go upfield. And that's why we kind of see him do this a lot when he's looking at Hardman, like get down the field. He wants him to go down the field more and not have to square off his routes like he is right here. You can see it right here. He leans backwards to get upfield and slows up just a little bit. And that's really what allows Lattimore to get back. I think that's Lattimore or the corner, whoever it is at this point, to get back and break up that pass. So no, that's Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. My apologies. He was able to get back and break that pass up. It's a little bit frustrating because he does a really good job on 90% of the route, and at the very end, he just doesn't bring that in. And I think he should catch that ball. That's kind of the thing, the theme for me is I think that some of these drops, they come through just a little bit of contact, and you really have to work through being able to do that in the NFL, because multiple of these that we've seen just in this alone were him on deep balls where, yeah, he found it, he had to readjust his, his route to get it, and the ball is either just out of his reach in front of him, or the contact has disrupted the process. Now, this is where I find some interesting things, because I believe this was one of his largest snap counts for the game all season. He had about 70% of the offensive snaps. I don't know whether that's just because the matchup really, really played well because their corners aren't very good or whatnot, but there's no explanation as to what happened after this, because right here you can see this is a good route, by the way. This is one of his really good routes. So he's going to come underneath, really hug that linebacker, still attack the corner and get outside. A little bit more hip sync could be nice. You can really break off that corner a little bit better. But again, he does really well to get through that. But like I was talking about with the Browns game, he seems to understand blind spots and zones a little bit better. Like I said, you could see him really hug the linebacker here out of his route, just hug it and get underneath it and then get to the outside. Like I said, a little bit more hip sync, you might be able to deceive the corner where you're going to go, because you could go on the inside, you go to the outside. That hip sync is important, especially for timing routes to the outside. If you're breaking down, you want to slow down and break and accelerate out of your break, and you can't really accelerate out of your break if you don't have any explosion. So that hip sync really allows you to get into a cut and then explode out of it. If you're just rounding it off, you're just kind of selling nothing. It's almost like you're just giving up your route. So you'll start to lean inside and allow the corner to really break on that, and that's really why you want to see some hip sync there. So it's a little bit here from him, but one of the big issues in this game that I noticed was he was kind of lazy most of the time with his running his routes, whether it was a flare to the the flat, or if it was just a half speed route over the middle. It was an issue all game, and I wonder if the Chiefs saw that, because after this game he played in 30% of the snaps the rest of the playoffs. For the game against the Bills in the Super Bowl, he didn't play very much. Coming from 70 to 30 is not what you want to see. So I wonder if they just kind of punished him a little bit that way. But contact issues starting to come back into this game, and he just he doesn't attack a lot of his routes the same way you would see a guy like Byron Pringle, who always explodes out of his stance into his breaks and out of his breaks. He's always doing it, and that's something that Hardman just doesn't do enough of. So I want to see him start to get into that, and that this route was at least a good explanation of him understanding to have a little bit more contact there and hip sync. It's just not enough in my opinion. So what I really want to talk about to end this video is improvement, because I do believe from all the reports, obviously camp reports and things like that are only to be trusted until we see the field footage. So as much as we know, Hardman has shown improved route running, improved everything to this point. Now that's what I'm seeing that can happen this year. I truly believe that his improvement is going to be mirrored in the success that they have off the field. If he was with Mahomes quite a bit and they worked on that timing and have that chemistry down, because if you can have that chemistry with a player like he does with Kelsey and he does with Hill, it's going to improve everywhere. It's going to improve in his routes. It's going to improve everywhere on the field. So I believe that he's going to be able to bounce back this year. All right. In terms of being on the field more, I think we're going to see an uptick in his snap percentage, because the Chiefs really do like to run those 3-by-1 formations, which will give you a slot receiver, reduced split receiver. It's going to give him more options. I do think now he can play all over the field. I think I saw more than enough options on the outside, him understanding a bit better how to manipulate corners and his routes and his stem specifically. You have to start mixing things up with speed cadences. You can explode out of your stance, but then you can start mixing things up with timing on your footwork and coming inside and going outside. I think he's kind of one-dimensional in that aspect. So at least he was last year. So getting better at every point, whether it's working through your cuts, whether it's that hip sync we were just talking about, whether it's varying your speeds in the stem, which is like the first extension of the route. So say you're running an out route from wherever, so you're going in and out. The stem is basically this line right here. You're working that first 5-7 yards of the route, which is essentially the route stem. So you want to vary some speeds in there, get in and out of breaks, maybe lead a little bit to the inside and come back to the outside, really force that corner to make some decisions. You're going to find himself way more open this next year, and I believe he's going to bounce back. I think I'm going to project him around 800 yards. I think that's a pretty good expectation for him coming into almost essentially a break it year. I think we'll see those touchdowns go up, and I really hope to see the chemistry with him and Mahomes on the field improve dramatically. So I hope you guys found this informative and intuitive, and hopefully it was a good enough information so you really make your decisions on what you think about Mecole Hardman coming into the season. So with that, I hope you guys have a great day. Please like, sub, bell notification. Helps us out, definitely helps you out getting all the information on those videos. So again, have a great day.
Thanks for watching this video from the team at RGR Football. Click these videos to see more and subscribe to RGR Football.